There are spirits who take a certain kind of pleasure over extenuated periods of time on the toilet. Now, when we're talking about mystics, yeah,
what kind of pleasures on the toilet?
Well,
I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
And welcome back to the Politics Unplugged podcast this week. And I am joined by a legislative candidate in the Republican primary who is challenging longtime lawmaker John Kavanaugh. His name is Robert Wallace. Robert Wallace, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And this is a district that includes Fountain Hills, very Republican area kind of district. So as normal, like when we have new politicians on running for office, their first time on, we give them a few moments, 30 seconds or so, to give us their elevator pitch. Excuse me. Tell us who you are and why you're running.
Well, my name is Robert Wallace, and I am running for Legislative District 3 State Senate. I am running against John Kavanaugh, who's been in office for around 19 years between the State House and the State Senate. I'm running to give our district another option. He was not primaried last election cycle, and I'm not one for career politicians, for people who stay in office for extenuated periods of time. It's a very compromising situation to be in. I stand for our constitutional republic, for free speech, for parental rights, and especially in this case with John Kavanaugh, for term limits.
Okay, and shortly before we started taping, you told me that already running for office is basically it's cost you your job with Turning Point USA, correct?
Yeah, Turning Point Action.
Turning Point Action,
501c4. Yeah,
you claim you've been fired because of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
tell us about that.
So there's a couple pieces to this. So I've been their manager, the regional manager for the McDowell Mountain region for their Chase the Vote initiative. And I've been doing that since July of last year. I was a ballot chaser with them last election cycle. And there's been a couple pieces. So as far as the role that John, I believe, has played in this, there is a video which I've just put up on my X page regarding what I'm calling Endorsement Gate. And this has to do with a threat that was given to Joe Arpaio to rescind his support for me, and which ultimately resulted in an endorsement from Joe to John. And this is after 3 to 4 years of a betrayal of John to Joe. Mm-hmm. And so I have documented that there. And that came by way of a threat, according to Joe Arpaio, to me, that came by way of the Warren Peterson campaign. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at John Kavanaugh, who's a Senate Majority Leader, and his connection with Peterson, who's the Senate President, we have Jake Hoffman up there too, and these guys, and Jake Hoffman talks directly with Tyler Boyer every day. They're very close.
So Jake Hoffman is a current state senator.
Yes.
Tyler Boyer is, I believe he runs the Turning Point Action.
Correct.
Out there. So, okay, go on.
Yeah.
Continue.
So about a month and a half ago or so, I was talked to by my manager, and they basically, she had told me that John Kavanaugh and Tyler had been talking, and John basically wanted me to drop out of the race, and they were asking me to drop out of the race and just focus on Indy Bigs. And I told them I absolutely would not do that. And so I knew my days were numbered with them at that point. And then just about a week and a half ago, I put out this call that I had with Joe Arpaio, which occurred 2 days before the debate that I did, the Clean Elections Commission debate. And in that call, which was a public call in a certain way, because it's all information that Joe Arpaio wanted me to share with the public. So it wasn't like a private phone call sort of thing. It was notes I was taking to say publicly things I failed to do. And after that debate, when he told me he'd gotten threatened to take his support from me, then all of a sudden this call became very relevant, because in it, it's him saying, okay, tell the public John has walked away from me 14 times. And among many other things. And so we know that John and Joe's relationship was very, very poor. And then this threat happened, which again, according to Joe, was from the Warren Peterson campaign. And then he did an about face and supported. So I don't know if Joe Arpaio was blackmailed or what kind of threat. It was a threat, you know? So when you mix that in, when I dropped that, Tyler's name got brought up in there too. All these big players are brought up into this conversation, and then all of a sudden I get this call, we're letting you go.
Well, just to push back, I've known Joe Arpaio, covered him for a long time. My initial reaction is I don't take Joe Arpaio as somebody who backs down when he's threatened.
Yeah. No, that's why it was so shocking, because I've known Joe for 3.5 years. Very closely. I live in Fountain Hills. There with him. I spend hours and hours talking to him. And he's never been the type of person to back down at all. And in that call, you'll hear him very emphatically say the things that he said about John. So for him to tell me that he was threatened, and then he did this thing which is completely opposite to all the hours of conversation we've had over the last few years, told me that threat was significant enough to make the America's toughest sheriff back down. And that's why I thought there was a story there.
All right. Well, before we get into some of the issues here facing the state, obviously your candidacy has gotten a lot of attention, particularly for some of the issues your opponent has raised about you. He's got an entire website dedicated to things you have said in the past. You hosted basically, what would you call it, a podcast, online radio show, or he's taken a lot of clips from things that you've said in the past.
Yeah.
Some of these things have dealt with like the kind of metaphysical world. Is that the best way to put this? Things like that. And I just want to get that out on the table and go through a couple of these real quick. And you can explain these and give them context, I suppose. One of them was John Kavanaugh has put together some sort of an AI ad or some sort of ad talking about how you believe in bathroom spirits. What the hell are bathroom spirits?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought this up. So, of course, it's an unavoidable topic. The first thing is I had a radio show in Memphis. It was called Spiritual Realities. It was a Sunday morning AM/FM live talk show. Later, that moved into a podcast format. So I have a lot of esoteric, metaphysical, Christian mysticism type subject content online. That's been a passion of mine for 20 years, is comparative religion and this sort of thing. So this is content that I've proactively put out into the world. It's not uncovering some secret or anything. With regards to, I'll just go to the bathroom spirits because this is what he keeps wanting to hammer on. If you go to his website that he has about me called weirdwallace.com, it's actually a pretty funny site. It's pretty amazing. He made it with AI and, it made it look pretty cool. But in that, one of the areas, one of the subjects is the so-called bathroom spirits. And he has the clip, and it's really like a 15-second clip or less. And I'm literally saying that according to Emanuel Swedenborg, 17th century Christian mystic, actually might be 18th century, lived in 1700s, that there are spirits who take a certain kind of pleasure over extenuated periods of time on the toilet. Now, when we're talking about mystics, yeah.
What kind of pleasures on the toilet?
Well, the extenuated period of time, I think the association is when we spend a lot of time next to excrement itself. It actually has there's a spiritual correspondence to it. Now, listen, all I did was say that this is what Swedenborg had said in one few seconds out of 100 hours of content, and then now my whole life is about bathroom spirits. And I'm just quoting this.
Let's put this to bed. Do you believe in bathroom spirits?
I believe in spirits, period. So there's spirits in every context
Okay.
for me. There's spirits in this room. We have dead loved ones. There's good spirits, there's evil spirits, there's angels and demons. We can call them all kinds of things. And they're spirits that have different kinds of qualities and proclivities. So for me, it may just sound interesting and weird because we're putting the word bathroom next to it, but I don't think it's any different than you're sitting in your car or something. It's just human nature to laugh at it.
But what's the mystic's name? Swedenborg?
Yeah, Swedenborg.
Swedenborg. Okay.
Emmanuel Swedenborg. And he's from
so you do believe in spirits and spirits in the bathroom per se, but do you believe like in what he was saying? These spirits get pleasure out of hanging out in the John.
I think there's dirty spirits.
Okay.
I think the spirits that take pleasure in all kinds of sin, sickness, sexual sin, every kind of, fallen, vice. There's a sort of spirit that has its angle and is hung up on it. And so I have no reason not to think that. Have I encountered bathroom spirits? No, I'm not saying I'm looking at bathroom spirits or anything like that.
Okay.
I'm just saying I had read that right before I had gone on air.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting, and it just came up in conversation.
And I don't want to spend the entire time going through all this, but there is a lot there. So there are a couple of other things, ones you to unpack and kind of explain. You also believe... is this accurate? Because, like, again, these aren't full clips. They're just, in context, these are just clips taken from things you've said in the past. You believe you're a reincarnated Black Street Gang member that was murdered by the Mexican drug cartel, correct?
Well, I don't know if I would go down to the level of saying I was murdered by the Mexican drug cartel.
Okay.
I was murdered.
But you had a dream about that.
Yeah, so interestingly, I was working at the Church of Scientology at the time.
Okay.
And as somebody who's, my Christian past, I've never really believed in reincarnation. There's a lot of things I never believed in.
Okay.
But because I have a very open mind and I have this interest in the, deeper esoteric spiritual subjects, and working at Scientology, eventually, I found my way into understanding a context for that. And one night I actually prayed. I said, please show me a past life. And I went to bed that night and I woke up in this white room. And it was this huge IMAX screen in front of me. And this whole clip played out where I'm driving down through the Mexican desert with some friends. I'm a young black guy in a car. And I remembered it like it was yesterday. It was not like any dream or hallucination. And I've experienced a lot of spiritual phenomena. So, I would just be really quick to write it off, but it was as an actual memory and that I was being given again. And in it, I went into a bar with some people and I was talking a lot of smack to these other gang members that were there. And then we ran out of there and we went into the desert. And we were outside of a car smoking and drinking. And in the distance, I saw this car approaching us. And I went completely speechless. My heart went into my stomach. And I couldn't say anything that these guys were approaching from behind. And this guy put out his gun and shot me. And this bullet came slow motion at my neck. And I zoomed up into the sky, looking down, everybody around the car getting smaller and smaller. And then I'm back in this room. And then I say, show me the whole thing again, but give me pen and paper, knowing I was in another dimension, but just writing it down would help me to recall this, when I was to wake up. The whole thing played out verbatim, and I woke up and I said, oh my gosh, I just recovered a past life. That is not something that I have a habit or an ability to do regularly. I know it's crazy to most people. I mean, most of what I say when it comes to personal spiritual experiences would have been crazy to myself once upon a time. But because I've gone so deep in my personal spiritual development, I mean, life is amazing, But yeah, that is something that that occurred, and I don't know what to apologize about it or what. But
and again, one other thing I want to ask you real quick: flat Earth. Do you think the word Earth is flat? I thought I saw something on the website.
Yeah, he did put that. So I describe myself as an oblate spheroidalist. Everybody from Rudolf Steiner.
What is an oblate sphere? I can't say that.
Spheroidal.
Okay.
Right up to Neil deGrasse Tyson describes the shape of the Earth as an oblate sphere. So if you were to picture a drop of mercury and under its weight, it kind of comes down and it's toroidal, and so that it's wide around the edges. It's wide around the edges, but it has a bit of a flat top. This is like a common,
So not a total flat earther.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not. I don't think that the Earth is just a flat plane. I believe it is an oblate spheroid that is flattened in.
Okay. If you don't mind me saying, that these are very out of the norm beliefs.
I'm very
I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm thinking back to when I used to listen to the Art Bell show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
he was kind of a back then. And I'm wondering your message when voters hear these kinds of things, why should they take you serious? Because these are kind of far out there concepts that aren't mainstream.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is they are becoming mainstream. For instance, everything that we have around in our government right now regarding disclosures and alien technologies, everything, the president's talking about it. Space Force is talking about it. You turn on Fox News and we have the government preparing people for so-called disclosure. So the fact that we have spent so much money in black budget projects and classified experiments regarding interdimensional realities with, everything from CERN all the way through, military operations to explore what the mind is capable of and a psychic capacity. I'm not inventing anything. This stuff is very old. It's little known. It's been stigmatized. It's a tinfoil hat subject for most people, yet we're being conditioned to be prepared for more and more disclosure, and it's becoming mainstream. So I might be ahead of the curve for some people, but I'm by no means the first person. People have been talking about this since way before I was born.
Well, let's get back, for lack of a better word, let's get back to Earth here.
Sure.
The third legislative district, right, Fountain Hills, is talk about a couple of things here. But you don't think Kavanaugh deserves to keep his job anymore. Why?
Well, I think that the importance of term limits is that when you are in office for an extenuated period of time, you become subject to the relationships you formed, leveraging those relationships, managing the status quo. I think of it as managing decline. Insofar as things are declining and you're just keeping the status quo going, we need fresh blood in there. Mm-hmm. He said during our debate that he believes in term limits. You vote him in, he spends 2 years in, he turns out and he comes back.
He has always said that he believes in term limits in the fact that voters every 2 years have the option to limit him. And I think that's a pretty reasonable argument that if voters are not happy with the job performance of their elected leaders, they can give them the boot, correct? Mm-hmm.
No, and I agree with that. And I think that's something I'm proposing and offering to the public at this time. But we also should think about actual hard term limits when it comes to a person being able to do that. Because let's say a district is neglected by voters. It goes under the radar. A lot of people don't pay attention to politics. Yeah. They don't even understand how much power an individual can accumulate.
Isn't that a kind of an accountability thing on the voters?
Absolutely.
If they keep sending the same person back there.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it's, they're right to do that. I think that it's unfortunate that so many of us have kind of fallen asleep behind the wheels. Most people are concerned about their daily life or making money or maybe football or something like that. While behind the scenes, there's people who's playing this game of politics and they stay in power, and whether it is that they have access to large amounts of money that keep their name recognition out, that help them to win these elections or whatever it is, the vast majority of people are subject, it seems like in a lot of cases, to the same politicians over and over, and they just vote it.
And also here on your card here, I'm looking at your platform. Secure the border, defend parental rights, medical freedom, election integrity, uphold the Constitution. Where's the difference between you and John Kavanaugh on that? He would say that he's for all of this kind of stuff.
I love that. There's a lot that I could say nice about John. I have spoken in support of some of his bills, actually, with regards to keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms and pronouns and things like that. And there's stories about that. My work with Gays Against Groomers as a state chapter lead, another podcast host, I've spoken in support of all kinds of legislation.
Now, you're Gays Against Queers. You're also a member of the Log Cabin.
I'm a former member of the
Okay.
Log Cabin Republicans of Phoenix, which is the largest chapter in the country, and the former secretary. Actually, John Kavanaugh had come to my house during that quarterly meeting where I was voted in as secretary. And it was at that same meeting, actually, that Joe Arpaio refused to come to my home because John was there. So that points back to 3+ years ago where John and Joe still weren't talking. And he wouldn't come there because he felt that John had betrayed him or whatever. But yeah, so I was in that capacity for a time.
Okay, and one of the your recent debate, one of the biggest arguments you and Mr. Kavanaugh had, he has accused you of being an anti-Semite for some of the things that you have said or posted online, and that's all documented on the website. And for people who aren't familiar with that and hadn't seen that, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, so I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not racist. I'm not sexist. I'm not anything like that. I love anybody and everybody, even my enemies. This post was a post that had been inadvertently shared among my 25,000 posts, which among all my platforms, asking somebody about their post. And so having accidentally reposted it, forgot about it getting left to my wall. And it's not
that post, you can go through what that post said, though.
Yeah. So the post was speaking to, and I have to recall because literally I had forgotten about this post, and if it wasn't for him bringing this up and making a case of it, I wouldn't even ever thought of it again. It had the different industries, some of them pertaining to this sex work, like
it was all controlled
by Jewish powers. That was the thing, and it was like, okay, the board members.
That can be seen as pretty anti-Semitic.
No, yeah, and I'm sure it could be, but again, that wasn't my intention. That wasn't.
So how do you accidentally post something you're not believing in?
Sharing, clicking through, sharing it to somebody else.
Why would you share that?
To ask them why they posted it. To ask somebody else why they posted it. I would have a long history of everything that I believe in has like 100 posts connected to it. Yeah. So if you find one that says like go purple hair, out of all that, that would stand out as odd. I used to attend a Messianic Jewish synagogue. I have a lot of affinity for Jewish mysticism. It's more, I think, of an easy political point system for him, just to point his finger and say anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic. Like that's his whole case against me as a post when I'm not an anti-Semite in any fashion or form. I have very close friends who are Jewish. I think it's really just easy because right now in this political climate, that's a hot button issue. So he's going after it.
All right. I think we're about ready to wrap up. I mean, what do you want to finish with? What do you want voters to take away from an interview like this, where they, and once again, why should they vote for you? I mean, you do seem, again, pretty much in line with where John Kavanaugh is on a lot of these issues. I've covered him for years.
Yeah.
Plenty to criticize of him and any other politician that's been down there, but as far as the top line issues, it seems like you guys are pretty, in sync.
Yeah. And we should be on a lot of things because we're both conservatives. The thing is, we need fresh blood in there. This isn't a situation where he should be wheeled out like Mitch McConnell. This isn't a situation where we benefit from, he likes to say all that extra time in office means experience. But what it really means is you're in bed with the same people continuing the same things. This is not in the vested interest of the people. We've got millions of people in the state. There's no reason we should be stuck or hung up on one politician over and over for decades. There are so many choices. There's so many intelligent people that could step in and make sure that we have a clean slate. I feel like I'm doing my role and my personal responsibility in participating. And I see only problems that come when you have somebody who's literally entrenched. We talk about draining the swamp. We talk about deep state, career politicians. you can think in your head everything that could go wrong with somebody who's literally in there for such long periods of time. I don't have to say.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. One question before you leave, non-political related, I suppose. What's your favorite book? And you can't say the Bible.
Okay. I would say How to Know Higher Worlds by Dr. Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner lived from 1861 to 1925. That book changed my life. It's a book about spiritual, scientific principles, meditation, and you could go to rudolfsteineraudio.com, and it's there for free as an audiobook with a lot of other ones.
Okay. Hey, it's a pleasure meeting you, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you, Dennis.
Bye. And welcome back to the second half of the Politics Unplugged podcast. And as always, the producer extraordinaire, the glue of the show, the straw that stirs the drink over here.
Thank you.
At Politics Unplugged, Colin Stan. Colin, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
One of the more interesting interviews I've had in politics over the years.
Yeah.
He's got a heck of a job in front of him with voters. Those are not, to be clear, mainstream views.
They're not mainstream views. Yeah, it's they're tough ones to get around, I think.
They're tough, and Kavanaugh's been in that district for a long time. He knows the voters out there, and they know him.
They do, and clearly they like him because he keeps getting reelected.
Yeah, and whether in the House or in the Senate.
I think it's probably an uphill battle to run against Kavanaugh with largely the same set of beliefs, but also throwing in bathroom spirits and the shape of the earth is flattened
ish
something. It's a flatter spheroid
obelisk
than we think
or something.
All of that is enough to make people go, I don't know, I'm kind of cool with how Kavanaugh's been doing this.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You never know. Mountain Hills is an interesting area.
It's one of the more interesting areas, I think, an underappreciated, interesting area.
Yeah. So this may fly.
It may not.
May not.
We'll see. Let's take our attention. Let's go back to Washington. Let's with this 250th celebration, this National State Fair.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has now basically anointed himself as master of ceremonies because he can't get what he called a bunch of third-rate acts to perform because they've most have dropped out. All but Vanilla Ice?
I think we were down to Vanilla Ice, and I hadn't heard a definitive on Flo Rida.
Yeah, but, Young MC,
the other
gone.
7
yeah,
were all gone. Young MC, gone. Martina McBride, let's be clear, Martina McBride, not really a third-tier act.
Okay.
I could see that argument for the others.
CC Music Factory?
CNC Music Factory, which was just the rapper guy. He wasn't the main guy behind it.
Yeah.
And his did you see his video? I think I brought this up last week, but his video when he talked about
quite,
it, where he's
quite definitive.
Quite definitive that he wasn't going to do it, and also that he was going to do it, and the video was on the toilet. I'm not sure if he was visited by any spirits during the making.
You beat me.
I know.
You beat me to
it
that.
Was just sitting there.
You put that on a tee for yourself.
Yeah, had to do that. But yeah, all the rest of them, Bret Michaels, the whole gamut. All of them had polled except, I think, Vanilla Ice and maybe Flo Rida. And it's just sort of funny that Trump dismissively called them third-rate acts because that's what you could get. It's not like Beyonce was clamoring to do it and they said no.
Well, on that aesthetic level, kind of like what a terrible week for the president, right?
Yeah.
They're taking his name off of the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
And he's got some other setbacks this week for him. War Powers Act. You got some Republicans in the House now that are breaking with Donald Trump. On this. It's an interesting time down there, and I'm wondering if you've got a president that's like pretty close to lame duck status.
It certainly seems like it, and it'll be interesting to see what that means after the midterms, because everyone still has to make happy with him before the midterms, or they risk losing his endorsement But once we get past the midterms, they don't particularly have any reason to be loyal to him.
No.
He can try and trash their future political prospects, but they've got other things to worry about.
Yeah,
after that,
it's a fascinating. And to be clear, none of the Republicans from Arizona's congressional delegation broke with Trump on the wars power stuff.
Yeah. Andy
Biggs, and the significance of that is Andy Biggs and David Schweikert are both running for governor. Democratic strategist on the show today, Stacey Pearson, said, "Oh yeah, for sure, Democrats couldn't make this an issue in a governor's race with a vote like that, because that a lot of the economic pain that Americans are feeling, Arizonans are feeling right now, can be tied directly back to that decision to go to war against Iran."
And if I have this correctly, Andy Biggs said he did not support the resolution because he didn't want to embarrass the president.
Yeah, he told me he thought it was a bit of a gotcha vote, is what he told me, a Democratic gotcha vote. So we're beyond gotcha questions. We're on to gotcha votes.
It's a gotcha vote.
We
offered you the opportunity to do what the House is supposed to do in this situation, and you are deferring. And so to ask you to do your job is a gotcha.
It was a gotcha vote, and again, didn't want to embarrass the president.
Yeah.
I did not get an answer from David Schweikert's campaign on why they voted for this, but I mean, it's all pretty clear at this point.
Yeah. They're not about to anger the president going into a primary.
No, they are not. Also, if you want to kind of debrief real quick, had an interesting interview with Daniel Keenan.
Yeah.
He's challenging Mark Lamb now. And, a few month ago, nobody probably paid any attention to this guy. But now people are saying that this race is in play. One of our analysts on the show said, he believed this race is now in play. Even though Mark Lamb has the Trump endorsement, has the name ID, they think that very well this could be a real horse race. I mean, what was your takeaway watching that interview play out?
What the biggest takeaway for me, honestly, is that when you ask him on his views, like the first thing he goes to is election integrity and 2020 and how it was stolen and how Mark Lamb was terrible because when asked to testify, he testified and did not protect the president by saying it was fraudulent. Yeah,
it was pretty incredible. I mean, we're 2026. We're still debating the 2020 election. There's some of that. I mean, look, and none of that stuff has been proven, but borne out. In fact, it's all been tossed out of court.
Yes, and not just tossed out of court, but they take it to court, and the judge says, "Okay, come back in a week with the evidence you say you have."
Yeah.
And they come back in a week with no evidence because the evidence doesn't exist. It's not a matter of people are weighing the evidence and deciding it's not good. There is no evidence. They cannot bring evidence to court. They have nothing.
Well, is it interesting too? Because he brought up and there was no real investigation. So what do you call that cyber ninja thing that the Senate paid for? The state Senate sanctioned and paid for in Maricopa County and did not change the results. In fact, gave Joe Biden more votes than he had originally in Maricopa County. And if you think I trust the tally on that vote more so than the tally from the original tally from Maricopa County, you're full of crap, because I trust that tally more than people sifting through ballots on lazy Susans.
And if anyone is unfamiliar with who that audit was done by, it was the Cyber Ninjas. It was a group of QAnon believing online people who were there to find fraud, and they found none. They were hired to find things that they could not find and had to admit there was nothing there. And yes, Biden got more votes in their count than Trump did.
I was shocked they couldn't find bamboo in the paper.
Yes, they were looking for bamboo because they thought that would be evidence that all of these ballots had been shipped over from China.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But, the other thing with him, though, was that he was, I believe, saying exactly what he needed to be saying to win and make himself competitive in an East Valley primary. That is an extremely conservative district out there, and those primary voters are extreme conservatives out there and big supporters of this president. So I think he's saying what he has to be saying to make himself competitive with that. And to be clear, if he wins the primary, he's going to win the general election.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to make Trump happy, go out there and say that he got every vote in 2020,
Sure.
and that it had to be stolen from him because otherwise he'd win 50 states.
Yeah,
and that's
I'm still
that's the vast majority of what Trump cares about now.
I'm still like, believe it when I see it. Donald Trump has shown recently that he still has an iron grip on his Republican Party, on the MAGA folks in his Republican Party. That has played out in the primaries over the past few months, with one exception in Iowa.
Yeah,
and I don't see any reason. I mean, if you look at some of the things that this president has been accused of, and lost in court with, do you really think that they're going to have a problem with some of these accusations coming against Sheriff Mark Lamb? Now, some of the threatening, intimidating, the racist stuff. This is all very serious stuff.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to take it out on Trump, they're not going to take it out on Lamb, I don't think, who's endorsed by Trump.
Yeah. If I had to pick who I thought was going to win the primary at this point, the answer is Mark Lamb.
Yeah.
The one thing that's tough for me to factor in, because I don't know how big it will be and I don't know how much it will matter, but the fact that the LDS Church appears to be backing away from Lamb and unhappy with the attention this has brought to them, I don't know how much to read into that.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, as they say, in LDS politics.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to pretend to be at this point.
Yeah.
But it's funny when periodically throughout my career, you'll always hear stuff like, oh, the church is going to get involved. Like it's usually really low key stuff, and don't know if that's going to have an effect on this race, but I tell you, that primary is a hell of a lot more interesting now than it was a month ago.
It is. It looked like it was going to be an easy Lamb win, and then he wins the general.
Now he's in the bunker.
Yeah.
And I think a few years ago when he was running against Kerry Lake for the U.S. Senate, I believe he went and did a primary debate. And I was reminded about this morning. And Lake didn't show up because she was the clear front runner.
Yeah.
And I believe Lamb said at the time, it's like, well, I look at this as a job interview, and if somebody doesn't show up for a job interview, they don't get the job. Well, fast forward a couple of years, there was a debate the other night. Guess who didn't show up?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's 2026. I think hypocrisy being a thing in politics is like so 2015.
Yeah, we're kind of past that. Lamb runs a pretty stealthy campaign most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, even since this all broke, it's been weeks since the Republic article came out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him.
No, he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
He's hunkered down at this point. And, I don't know if that's good strategy or not. We'll see. Maybe he just, early voting starts on the 24th. So we're a few weeks away from that. And if you look at the number of votes, think of it as kind of like a barbell graph, like a barbell in the gym. You see a lot of votes cast at the beginning, and it kind of trickles through the rest of the month, and a lot at the end.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just trying to hope to get through this, keep that lead, move it forward. And the polls still have him. What little polling there is, and I'm not very trustworthy of it, shows Lamb with big leads. And your favorite, the betting markets, Kalshi, now, but has Keenan like with a slight lead heading into early voting. So we'll see if the strategy of Lamb just kind of hunkering down, if that works or not.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing up the Kalshi thing.
I know it's a sore spot for you, right?
I just say, yeah.
It's like the Eric Clapton. It's like the Eric Clapton of political data for you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't care how tech bros are betting, but to each their own on that.
Oh man, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about basketball.
All right.
And it's adjacent to politics this week because the president of the United States has now said he has been invited and will attend Game 3 at Madison Square Garden of the NBA World Championship Series.
Yes. Fans are being advised to get there 2 hours early to get through security. I'm not sure what kind of reception President Trump thinks he's going to get from the the Knicks fans in Madison Square Garden. I think I know what kind of reception he's going to get. I'm surprised he's doing this.
Oh, I cannot wait to see what that reception is.
Yeah.
Because this is not a man, and like, come at me, bro, if you want to, but like, this is not a man who's very popular in New York.
No, hasn't been for ages. Hasn't really ever been popular in New York. Now, very, very wildly unpopular in New York. They don't like it.
And now you're fucking with people's sports.
Yes.
Enjoyment. Because now you want to take your kid to the game or whatever and go enjoy a game. Like, now you got to recalibrate. Now I got to show up 2-3 hours earlier.
Yeah. Also, the NBA crowd generally is probably not the demo that he's going to be successful with.
No.
Because he's getting mixed reactions when he goes to NASCAR.
No.
You get a mixed reaction at NASCAR, wait till you get to the NBA.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see if they show him on the Jumbotron. I'm curious to see if he's publicly visible at all. I assume he's going to be in James Dolan's box, the owner of the Knicks, who is a Trump supporter.
I would assume he's going to be, because, this is a president who loves the spotlight. He is not going to Madison Square Garden because he's a big basketball fan and he loves the game.
Yeah.
He's going there because he's always got to be in the middle of these conversations.
Yes. Yeah. I don't see this going well for him. I'm surprised to see he's doing it. I don't think the reception is going to be a warm one.
No, it's going to be interesting. But on the side note, on a true basketball thing, though, man, we're taping on Friday. That game one was really entertaining and fantastic. Not a classic game where it comes down a lot, but it was a good competitive game.
No, and it was close late.
It was close late. But I was really excited about that, and I was like, man, I really hope I was wrong, like, heading into this, because I was the one ascribed to the conventional wisdom that whoever comes out of the West is going to walk away with the championship.
Yeah,
that ain't going to happen here.
No, and that made some sense going in, because the two best teams seemingly were the Thunder and the Spurs, and they played a great 7-game series. You would think that whoever wins that is the better team. Meanwhile, the Knicks put together like the best 11-game run in NBA history, not playoff history, but their point differential was
insane.
Historic. It was unbelievable.
I think it's like 200 points or something.
It's crazy. Yeah. Literally the best run in professional basketball history in the U.S.
Wow.
The teams, they did it again. Like, Cleveland didn't look very good, but like, they still made the playoffs. It's not like they were playing bums. No. They were playing playoff teams and did this. It's a really good team.
Huh.
And if the Knicks win tonight, and by the time this drops, we'll know who won game 2. If the Knicks win tonight, the series is over. There is no chance the Spurs go to Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks have the chance to win their first title in 53 years. No way the Spurs are sweeping them out at home. No. I think if the Knicks win tonight, it's a goner. And I'm curious to see what the Spurs do, because in game 1, they looked, and particularly Wemby, looked completely exhausted. Just like Wemby's hands were on his thighs, panting 3 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a tough series.
It's
against
a really tough series.
OKC they had.
And this is a team that's never done this before.
Yeah.
And the playoffs are a different animal. It's really hard. It's really, really physically taxing. And if you haven't been there before and made a run, you'll hear that, but you don't know what it's actually like.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out what it's actually like. It's really hard. But there were games like that against the Thunder where Wemby was like that, and he bounced back amazingly in the next game. Yeah. So it's absolutely possible. He looks great tonight, and they tie it up.
I also felt that, too, that at the end of the game, it felt like you could see the inexperience and feel how young the Spurs team was. Because this is a battle-hardened crew, I guess, with the Knicks, and it really showed when it came down to clutch time. And, the Knicks also, their point guard, his name's escaping me now.
Jalen Brunson.
Guy's got a killer instinct.
He does. Amazingly good at what he does, particularly.
But
his
yeah,
size.
I would agree with you too. It's a do or die game too.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I mean, San Antonio got to win this one.
Yeah. The scary thing about San Antonio is this is the second youngest team ever in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
The next few years, it could be cancel Christmas for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
look
Wemby is amazing. And once he figures this out, because again, you bring up a good thing too, you know, playing this kind of a taxing schedule in the playoffs where you're playing every other day or every few days, high competition. You're not coasting like you can in November.
Right.
In the league.
Right.
You
I mean,
know?
they go in knowing this is going to be tough, but then they show up and are reminded they're playing one of the most intense games of their life every other day. Because it's been sort of a condensed schedule because they want to get it out of the way before the World Cup.
Yeah.
So they're playing every other day. And after coming off a 7 game against the Thunder, that, you know, was a big, big emotional, hard fought win for them. It's tough to readjust and go against the Knicks, who just had 9 days off.
Yeah. Can't wait until we go. When is it going to be? Next week or the week after? We're going to be. We'll go over our preview of the World Cup. I am so stoked for this World Cup. I love the World Cup so much.
I love the World Cup, and I'm dreading this one. I'm not.
Well, you know what it is like. It's always all the bullshit, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but we'll save all the bullshit for later. But all the bullshit before every World Cup.
Yeah.
And then they kick off, and it's like, it's great soccer.
Yeah. It's a lot of bullshit on this one, man. It's
just any more than the last one with the slave labor building everything. I mean,
but like that wasn't our country.
Yeah, it's true.
And just, you know, teams are having trouble because the U.S. won't grant them visas for their players. The degree of money gouging going on everywhere they have a game is disgusting.
Oh no!
And like Iran's team has to fly in and out of Tijuana every night because the U.S. won't let the Iran team spend a night in the U.S. So they have to play in Seattle and then fly to Tijuana after the game.
Yeah.
After flying in that day.
No, I get it. I get all that.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll talk more about it later.
Sure.
But we got another list that I feel like kind of like justifies us or what?
Yeah.
Validates us?
Yeah. So we were ranting the other day about the New York Times list of the 30 greatest living American songwriters.
There were some glaring omissions.
Glaring omissions on the list. And they were flooded with people telling them they were wrong. So they tallied up the votes from people telling them they were wrong, and they have introduced the Reader's Top 100 greatest living American songwriters. And so here's the list. And their list was not in order. This list is in order. So the top 4, Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, Carole King. They were all on the New York Times list. Number 5.
And pretty high up, right?
Yeah. Well, except it wasn't in order. So,
this is more ranked.
Presumably, but they weren't ranked. Number 5, Billy Joel, was not on the Times list. I was shocked he was not on the Times list. I was also very happy to see he was not on the Times list. He would not be number 5 for me. He would not be top 100 for me. Again, people love Billy Joel. I was surprised he didn't make it.
How dare you besmirch the Piano Man?
Yeah, that song's awful. It's just a lot of schlocky stuff. It's like there's a lot of craft. There's no art to what he does.
Ooh.
They rhyme. They have a tight little meter and they rhyme, and they're very dramatic, and they're just god awful. Right. Anyway, Stevie Wonder, Taylor Swift, Dolly Parton, they were all part of the list. Also, there's an editor's note that people, right around number 7, they throw in that people were outraged that Joni Mitchell didn't make the list, and they say number 7 is where Joni Mitchell would be. Joni Mitchell's Canadian, which is why she was not on their list.
Well, that's the kind of high-quality standards I expect from the New York Times these days.
Yeah. James Taylor at 9 was not on the original list. 11 and 12, Jackson Browne, Tom Waits, not on the original list.
Tom Waits was, for me, just an abhorrent omission.
Yeah.
That guy is...
And I probably would have had Jackson Browne on my list.
Yeah. And you got another one coming up here on that list, too, that was really...
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me throw out on Jackson Browne. We share something in common. We were both editor-in-chief of the high school newspaper at Sunny Hills High School in Fullerton, California.
I love that. I love
Many
that.
years apart.
What was the biggest story that your paper ever broke?
Oh, God, I have no idea.
Cheating with the math fund?
I have no idea. I don't know. We had I don't know. It's a good paper, though. Number 14, Randy Newman.
Yes.
I argued for Randy Newman last time. So did a lot of the readers. 15, David Byrne was not on the original list.
That's really, yeah.
I'm a huge Talking Heads fan. I would struggle a little bit with putting Byrne on the list as much as I mean, when we did our Greatest American Bands,
is there a body of work
2.
compared
There's
to...
a tremendous body of work.
Yeah.
It's just strange.
Yeah. But like, is there a body, like when you start looking at like Dylan or hell, even Billy Joel, there's a lot of hits there, a lot of songs that you recognize and know, maybe not hits, but at least you know.
Yes. There's a level of quirkiness with David Byrne that just surprised me. Stevie Nicks at 16. It would. And then at 19 and 20, 2 more that were not on the original list that I thought were, in one case, a really glaring omission. Jason Isbell is at 19 on this list. He would probably be 2 behind Dylan for me. And then number 20, Jeff Tweedy.
Oh, yeah.
Of Wilco.
Yeah.
Let me charge through some of the rest. Donald Fagen at 22. I'm just going through people who were not on the original list. Neil Diamond at 23 didn't even occur to me. I don't know where I stand on the Neil Diamond one.
You know, I'm so hit and miss with Neil Diamond. It's more of a personal thing because, you know, my father really liked Neil Diamond and listened to far too much Neil Diamond, and I never really got into him for that. You know, on the other hand, like my father also he liked dark music like Johnny Cash and played that a lot. Love Johnny Cash.
Yeah. If I ever hear Sweet Caroline again, it will be too soon. I don't need to hear Sweet Caroline again in this lifetime.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, no. 24, John Fogerty.
Hey man, CCR baby.
Yeah, he should have been on the original list.
Underrated rock and roll band.
25, R.E.M. They did sort of collectively because they all wrote the 3 guys wrote the music and Stipe wrote the lyrics. Again, they were my number 1 American rock band of all time when we discussed that, so I'm on board with that. And then Patti Smith, Don Henley. Yeah, no, not feeling that. Cruise through some of the other top that were not on the original. Eminem at 31. Tracy Chapman at 33. Lin-Manuel Miranda at 36.
Is that the Hamilton guy?
Yeah, it's the Hamilton guy. Steve Earle at 39.
Steve Earle, okay. That's good.
42, Bonnie Raitt. 43, Lady Gaga. 44, John Hyatt. 45, Billie Eilish and Phineas. John Hyatt's a good
these
call.
Are just
Somehow
people.
John Hyatt.
These are just people who didn't make the original.
These are I'm just jumping through some of the ones that didn't make the original list. At right around 45, 46 is where people were putting Brian Wilson. He is dead. And I actually enjoyed the New York Times note on this. They sort of considered Brian Wilson, Mike Love to be kind of a pairing for that.
I don't think
since they were the 2
Brian Wilson would have agreed with that.
No, and they said, so theoretically we could have just left Mike Love here since he's still alive and Brian Wilson is not, but that didn't really, they figured that was not within the spirit of the people who were voting for the Beach Boys, where Brian Love is not a beloved figure. Paul Westerberg of the Replacements at 48. I'm a Westerberg fan.
Yeah, no.
A lot of wasted talent, but
Wasted does a lot of work there until they double entendre, at least early in his career. I mean, no, I'm a big fan of the Replacement, and I thought his solo career was pretty cool. I mean, that
yeah, a few, Amy Mann at 51. I'm a big Amy Mann fan. Beck at 56. Chrissy Hind at 69, which is sort of interesting because she is from like Akron, Ohio, but has lived in London for like 50 years. But I guess if you're going to disqualify Neil Young and Joni Mitchell because they're born elsewhere, you probably have to consider Chrissy Hind because she was born here and then moved. Ben Folds at 81. Ben Folds is really good. Billy Joe Armstrong at 84.
I mean, at this point, we're talking like 100 songwriters.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah, why not? Because you ask the average person to name 100 of the best songwriters, you probably go through a handful and then you just start naming people.
Just naming people. Yeah. Let's see. Olivia Rodrigo at 91. Sturgill Simpson at 96. He is terrific. So I was kind of happy to see him make the list, even if it's not all that high. So there you go. Probably a better list than the Times list.
Yes.
With the possible exception of number 5.
And I also think that the take-home message there is, too, a lot of people were not on the original New York Times list.
Yes.
I think you could make a pretty good case that maybe they don't have their finger on the pulse of these kinds of things.
Young Thug was on the top 30 for the Times. I don't believe he made the top 100 for the readers.
Oh boy.
So there you go.
Anyway, man, hope you have a great weekend planned because we're out of time here. We got to wrap up.
If I'm visited by any bathroom spirits, I'll let you know.
I hope you have a great weekend and you're not visited by any bathroom spirits.
Thank you.
Whatsoever.
I hope they're friendly if they are.
If they are. And might I suggest some Pepto-Bismol or something if that happens.
Thank you.
All right, man.
See you next week.
Soon.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.